So welcome to Get YouTube Done Now Workspace session. I am Majesty AliNICOLE Wow. I am the creator and founder of the WowTube Preneur Factor Evolution. And I am grateful to be joined once again in this workspace session by my star queen celebritypreneur protege, Gina Gardiner. And we're going to be doing the second workspace session with her today. And I'm just so proud of her. And she just has done an amazing job with her development around this next level for her YouTube advantage. And I'm excited of what we're going to bring forth today, because we're expanding this into something even greater. So Gina, thank you again for being here. You can come off mute. Unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoy these sessions. I get so much from them.
Yes, they are tremendous. I just enjoy this. And the fact that we're back again so soon is even more exciting. And it's exciting because things just rapidly progress and expand. And sometimes when we're on that path and a certain trajectory and things are moving forward, what happens is some subtle shifts can come in and we think we're on the path to do this, and it's still the path, but it opens up to say, but there's a way that you actually can catapult this or expand it a little bit more that's going to be for the highest and best good. It's like having these different trajectories, which we're always on these. What is it? The better, the good, the better, the best, or the good, one of them. This is something like that. So you could start off on what is a good path. Then it's like, oh, this is the great path. Oh, this is the better trajectory. This is the best one. So it's kind of like that is happening in what I see that's materializing, for you. You have any thoughts around that before we start diving into what we're going to do today?
I think one of it is about taking action and gaining momentum.
Yes,
And
perfect.
making sure that you actually take things forward. It's so easy to just get stuck. And once you do get stuck, then not only vibrationally are you not moving forward, but also that those beliefs about yourself and the limitations seem to get more difficult to get out of. So, moving things forward, I think, is just so important.
Oh, it absolutely is that forward momentum. And as much as we can keep up with the evolution of that expansion, it's always going to be best. And this is something that's really important that I want to bring out before we jump into what's going to be covered today. Is the fact that when we start working towards something, people have to be very flexible to understand that that momentum can pick up speed, and then some things start to shift. So that's what I mean by when I say being on a different trajectory. And I believe that sometimes this is what keeps people stuck, is because they're trying to work a plan a certain way, and they're trying to work, and they're not understanding that sometimes there are these little detours that help you to get to your success, sometimes faster or in a more advanced way that's going to be to your highest advantage. So instead of having disruptions happen, because that's sometimes what happens, is we start moving in the right direction, and then some disruptions can happen to make us detour. But the thing about it is we can get out ahead by being present in the processes to understand when the momentum is picked up and it's saying, okay, now you shifted to a different trajectory. And on this different trajectory for YouTube now, you're going the same route to success in a sense, but meaning you're going to achieve what you're setting out to achieve, but it's offering you a different route to go there. Like having like many ways to get to a certain path. You're on this path and it's the right way, but there are other right ways on that path that can provide that good, great, better, best type of experience. So aligning with which one of those trajectories is going to be most beneficial for you, that's where you want to. And if your alignment, your momentum picks up to say, hey, we're on the good path, but it just shifted to the great. So you want to get in that great path and start riding that wave of momentum. I know that makes sense to you.
It does indeed. And I think it's really interesting how often, if we allow ourselves, that what we dream about doing, our goals, are, when we allow that openness and flexibility, we'll often achieve far more than we ever thought possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, definitely. It can become a more than meets the eye type of experience. And we want that, because what we think, even within our kind of limitations in our mind, even in expansiveness, often pales in comparison to what is really actually trying to emerge from us. And that is that whole evolution of the wow factor coming through, and allowing that to be what catapults you, of not settling even in a good bracket, even in a great bracket, when there's the better and the best that is wanting to come forth. But you have to start off in those brackets to build up, to level up. But when you think that, oh, okay, I'm just climbing this ladder a certain way, it's almost like being in a corporation, and you're thinking, I'm climbing the corporate ladder to get to this certain position or this certain pay grade. But the path actually is that, no, you're actually going to own that corporation one day, or you're actually getting that, building that momentum and climbing that ladder in a way, because you're actually going to launch your own corporation, so it's just all these different possibilities. Okay, so without me going down too many different rabbit holes of the wowpreneur experience, in a sense, so let's jump in and start kind of, I guess we should talk a little bit about what took place in the last session, but I will have that particular link in the description, and in the article that was read within that, within that session. I'll have all that in the description, but I think it would be good to kind of bring those up to speed in terms of kind of what happened, what you developed from the last workspace session, what you've worked on so far, because we've moved through stuff pretty quickly, where it hasn't been a lot of time to actually do too much a certain way, because now you're in this other trajectory of this expansion. So would you like to kind of talk about that before we start with what we're going to do today?
So we talked about using different styles of YouTube videos and ways of using them. And out of that, I said that I committed to do 3 sets of 30-day YouTube programs, if you like.
Doing the shorts too?
So some of those would be very short, some less than a minute, some of them longer. And I said that I was going to create a series. Initially, it was just going to be a YouTube series of videos for people with long-term health challenges, and particularly coming out of long COVID, really. And using my own experience of challenging health issues over the last, 30, nearly 40 years. And then I decided, well, actually, I wanted a companion book to it. And so I started by creating my plan. What were my themes going to be? And I've made a couple of the videos. And originally, my idea was that I would write the section in the book and I'd do the corresponding video. I found that quite disjointed, and so what I've now done is I've written 15,000 words. I would think about 3/4 of the way through the book. And so I will set aside some uninterrupted time when I know it's going to be quiet, and then I can create the videos very easily. And because I've written the companion book, I'm really clear about what is it I want the people who are watching the videos to get out of them, because I've ordered my thoughts by
Mhm.
writing the text for the book. So that's done. I also talked about using creating out of my radio shows and TV shows playlists, and creating videos where I would demonstrate my own expertise at the head of that.
Yes.
And so that's again, the plan has been created, and
Mhm.
I've done a couple of those videos. And so, yeah, I know exactly what I want to do in those things. It's just a question of getting through them.
Absolutely. And this is so perfect.
And I can
Go
just, if
ahead.
I
Go
can just
ahead.
say
Yeah.
that we actually did this four days ago, 5 days
Mhm.
ago. So
Mhm.
it's been quite full on since.
Oh, absolutely. And this is so perfect. This is so perfect. In terms of even what we were just discussing before you started sharing, is about those trajectories.
Yeah,
So here it was from that workspace session, which was all around creating your own YouTube, get YouTube done now, VIP intensive, either in a weekend or a week type of format. And you chose, the weekend, but there would have to be the prep work, of course,
yeah,
before you get into that. And which, you're doing all that now. And then when you get into your weekend to record or however, but the trajectory could have shifted, which it did, because here you were on this track to do that, which we leave room for divine editing, of course. But do you see how your trajectory shifted to say, but the better, the greater plan or unfolding could be, yes, I've created this tentative plan to do this way, but how I add more value is I'm going to create the companion
yeah,
publication and then kind of work, from that angle instead of the one that I was working from or planning to work from. So things start to shift. And so now that puts you in a different trajectory of what's going to start playing out as you start, putting this out. But it just becomes more expansive. And so when talking about having that concentrated weekend, it may be that you're on the trajectory where this becomes the week thing, or a combination. You do, and I do these all the time, where I'll have a week with certain focuses of getting things done, and then I'll have the weekend too, or I maybe use the weekend that starts my jumpstart initiative for the upcoming week that I want to, spend doing an intensive for myself in the mini formats. But the great news about this and what we're going to talk about today is because today we're going to be focusing on actually the 30-day, the get YouTube done with a more 30-day core focus, which is more expansive because even within just getting the weekend aspect done, you embraced one of the concepts that was from one of the articles in there about with the YouTube shorts or the short form video is being able to do the 90-day focus with the 30-day set, right?
yeah.
And a lot of that is about creating in a weekend or in a week the content or so that can play out for that expansive time. But now actually having a 30-day grounding plan on a different scale, I think is definitely going to be a huge trajectory catapult. Your thoughts about that before I have you read the article?
I think in some ways it's what I shifted into, because
Organically.
what I'd planned, what we talked about, and what had
Mhm.
been triggered during that conversation
Yes.
has grown like topsy, really.
Yes.
And as I was planning, well,
Yes.
um, and you think this is not a weekend, it's not a week, but it is actually. There's a really defined shape to the intention,
Yeah.
and defined shape in terms of how I want it to be cohesive, but the
Yes.
rest is flexible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's just tremendous. So with that being said, should we go ahead and read the article and then have a little bit more conversation around it and then get into what notes or what value you had taken from going through reading two of the newer ones that are additions to the ones that you read before.
Certainly.
So yeah, let me make some distinctions real quick between the two articles, and which they'll all be listed in the description. So the article prior that was a part of the workspace session that Gina and I did before had 8 articles in it. I believe, yeah, 8 articles, and to go through and read and create kind of your customized Get YouTube Done VIP intensive weekend or week. And really, that article is primarily focused for channels who are under 500 subscribers, and it has different levels of the articles, which you'll hear a reiteration of those when Gina reads the article today. But again, that one was 8 articles and primarily focused on the weekend or the week types of intensives with different options. So what she's going to be reading today is one that is an extended version of that and a different premise. It has 10 articles, has a few more than that in there in a sense. I think there might be a couple of bonuses, but the primary thing is the 10. And she's read the 2, and that's what we're going to really focus on today in connection with the one that she's actually going to read. So, okay, with that being said, Gina, take it away.
So the article is titled Create Your Own Customized Get YouTube Done Now 30-Day VIP Intensive, 10 helpful articles and mini lesson playlists for building your profitable channel, making an impact, and more. I guarantee that if you just buckle down and focus, you can get twice as much done today as you got done in the last 2 days combined, said Monroe Man. He's a successful new year, the 52-week inspirational planner that will change your life forever. Have you been wanting to get your YouTube channel aligned for high-level success, but not knowing how to get started? When it comes to getting YouTube done, it's more than just desiring that things would get in order. You have to put in the work and prepare for your success. However, it doesn't have to be a difficult venture. Yes, you have to be productive, but there are ways to align your success for getting the right things done to work smarter, not harder, and get real results. Over the years, I found that leveraging in the UK, Get It Done Now intensives work well for getting out ahead of your success trajectory to create the best outcomes. I love helping others customize their own experiences to create what's best for them. You can enjoy an on-air workspace session by clicking on this title, Get YouTube Done Now, On-Air Workspace Session with AliNICOLE featuring Gina Gardiner, Part 1. And those who have a YouTube business can benefit tremendously from incorporating Get It Done Now intensives for creating consistency for your productions and overall success. If you've been stalling, procrastinating, or have been unsure about what to do next, this article will provide a robust and resource setup for success. So whether you're new to YouTube, restarting, or ready to level up, you'll find the content very helpful for now and next levels. So it's time to stop just thinking about it and take action. What obstacle yesterday kept you from your vision? Make it your stepping stone today, said Clint Mello. Just imagine. In the next 30 days, your YouTube business can skyrocket and catapult you into the next level of playing field that you're designed to thrive in. The impact and income that you've been longing to make could be one customized VIP 30-day intensive away. Now, let me be clear. You won't necessarily be doing something every day for 30 days. This will be your intentional window of time to execute on the most important aspects of your YouTube business. So let's define, decide, and do. So, what do you need to get done? What have you decided? What do you plan to do? If you commit yourself to this process, it will change your entire world, even outside of YouTube. No need to stress yourself with how to design your Get YouTube Done Now experience. Everything that you need is in this article. To prepare accordingly, it's best to determine what are the higher priorities for this initiative. You'll need to set aside a notebook for this experience, create a plan, and get on calendar to schedule your intensive or intensives. Next, you'll begin customizing your experience and make a commitment to get YouTube done and do it now. Formats to consider below are taken from the article. Create your own Get YouTube Done Now VIP intensive weekend or week, 8 articles and mini lessons video playlist to help small channels set up for achieving their maximum success, monetization, and more. Consider breaking your 30 days up into several series of these formats. Weekend intensive considerations. 2 VIP half days of 2.5 to 3 hours with 2 5 to 10 minute breaks, or 2 VIP full days of 5 to 5.5 hours with 2 10 to 15 minute breaks and 30 minutes for lunch. A week VIP intensive consideration could be 5 VIP days of 1 to 1.5 hours with no break, or 5 VIP half days of 2.5 to 3 hours with 2 5 to 10 minute breaks, or 5 full VIP days of 5 to 5.5 hours with 2 10 to 15 minute breaks or 30 minutes lunch. The options above are just a few examples. Of course, you can always customize your experience accordingly. Now it's time to start preparing for your experience with the articles and playlists to customize your success. There's 10 helpful articles and mini lesson playlists for building a profitable channel, making an impact, and more. The 10 articles below are also resources of the platform YouTube Revenue, Your Way Institute of Customized Success. Build your profitable YouTube empire now articles. Let's reverse engineering your YouTube business. Focus on profitability first as your foundation versus popularity. Build your residual revenue generating video communications entrepreneurship empire with YouTube, Rumble, and more. 5 things you should know about profitable shifts for YouTube channels for business. Why you don't actually require subscribers to monetize your YouTube channel. However, it's best to gain several followers for a better social media appeal and presence. Faceless videos are becoming a big thing on YouTube, and this isn't new. Building up your small YouTube channels, and these are some of the articles. Create massive momentum and marketing magic with your YouTube shorts and other short form videos for channels with less than 100 subscribers. Non-linear business growth tips for YouTube channels with less than 200 subscribers. Focus on figures, not just followers, how to successfully set up your YouTube channel for profits and not just popularity with under 300 subscribers. Revenue recognition your way on YouTube, the art of creating monetized success customization with less than 400 subscribers. YouTube Revenue your way, creating customized monetized success with less than 500 subscribers. Enjoy YouTube Your Way mini lessons playlist. Get up, get out, and go get it done, says Jeanette Karen. I hope this article and the ones included were extremely valuable for helping you set up your Get YouTube Done Now 30-day VIP intensive, and I'd love to hear how these served you. After 30 days, you'll look back and be glad that you took the time to invest in this experience. You'll be so proud of yourself for getting YouTube done and not allowing anything to hold you back from your success.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just love hearing you read.
Oh, thank you. Lots of practice doing assembly every morning.
Yes, this is wonderful. Yeah, it's just great. And so with you reading that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, of course. And it's funny, even as I wrote that article, I had you in mind like the whole time too. So yes, this is great. So let's talk about, before we get into the two articles within there that you had to read and start to create more of the expansive plan around. Let's just talk about this article just in general, and if you want to make some distinctions from the last one versus this one, you can, but just anything around this that really expanded the aha. You alluded to that as we started, but now that you've read the article, I think it would bring it more home in a sense for those who are going to be listening, to this. Just your thoughts around this particular part of the initiative.
I think for many people, they spend a lot of time thinking, I ought to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get stuck in their head of, yeah, but what if it's not perfect? Or what if it's not right? Or what if I, and so they just get stuck in the quicksand of inaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what the articles do, both this one and the previous one, is they put it into the context of making it easy to drive forward, because they, if you follow the article, and I, looking at the article from last time where there were 8 articles, and I went through them, listened to them, took notes, and then went through my notes and I highlighted which of these things are really relevant for me. And there were bits, even though I got more than 100 and more than 200.
It's from everyone. Yeah.
There were bits which that's relevant to me. That's really going to be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
This time, I think, having not only read the previous article and listened to the playlists and had the workshop experience, and then planned and started to execute the plan, I think what this does is it demonstrates that there are multi-levels to this and multiple models to this. There is no right or wrong.
One size fits all.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that, if you're listening to this, so often you speak to people who go on courses where they say, it's got to be done this particular way. And if that particular way doesn't resonate with you and doesn't feel right, either you've got to try and fit it, which is like putting on a shoe that's too tight.
Right.
Or a lot of people do is, if it doesn't fit, I'm not going to do anything. And so they waste a lot of time, energy, and often money, in listening to something that is so constrained that it doesn't actually lead them anywhere.
You're absolutely right. Let me jump in and say this really quickly, and thank you so much, because that was just magnificent the way you put that. That is why, with the experience that I help others to create for themselves, is about them creating YouTube and YouTube revenue their own way, and being able to customize their success, because there's not a one size fits all. So just like the model that I use for myself, in a sense, would not work for other people, because mine is very pioneer. It's a very different type of experience, but I do create the space where others can find their own unique pioneer way of being a YouTubepreneur versus just a YouTuber. Because as you know, I make huge distinctions in my works. And of course, you know that within the celebritypreneur bracket, even the difference between the celebritypreneurship and just traditional entrepreneurship and traditional celebrity, and just the distinctions there, whether you're an author or authorpreneur, is a difference. A YouTubepreneur has a business model, and most people think, well, I have a business model, I'm a YouTuber, I have a bit. No, it's a very different context of how that plays out. And some of the articles, of course, make distinctions, allude to it anyway, is that you have to have a different level of intentionality. And that's why a lot of the results aren't, people don't get the results, is because if you try to actually follow something that someone else has done, yes, are there going to be core elements and aspects out of the advice and wisdom that's, but absolutely, absolutely. But one thing we know is that what got them to where they are, they have evolved
Mm.
too. And so them trying to teach you from that perspective actually is doing them a disservice, and you one. They'd be better off putting that information in a product for you to level up in that way. So then when you meet up with them in a grander context, you can be in your evolution too. So Gina, would you like to speak anything to that? Because you've been through a lot with me in terms of different levels of work and not just YouTube, of what the evolution actually does for our expansion.
I think there's so many levels to this, and I think
Yes.
People tend to stay. We talk about comfort zone, don't we? People tend to stay with what's familiar,
Right.
and because it's familiar, even though at times it's very uncomfortable, it is familiar, and so it feels a bit like the sailors in you know, deep in the past, who thought that the world was flat, and so they stayed
Right.
close to the shore. And it was only those brave souls who decided that they were going to navigate their way from the shore and go into uncharted waters.
Right.
And I think one of the things that what has happened for me is I've become much very familiar with uncertainty.
Yes.
That's the one certainty in my life, is that I know that I never know what to expect when you and I meet, and I never know where it's going to go. I just know I'm going to evolve and move forward. But what I like about what you offer is that you can enter into it at so many different levels. So
Yeah.
you can take the thing at face value and work your way through it, and that would be really valuable. You can take the essence of what you say and build on that yourself,
Yeah.
and it offers you a springboard to take things forward. And if you are really open to allow yourself to take a step off the cliff and not quite know where it's going to take you, then what I have discovered is I can fly.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I can't fly unless I take a step off the cliff.
Right. And not just that you can fly,
But
how
fly.
well you can fly.
Yeah.
Like,
And the
wow,
more you
I
do
didn't
it,
know it was like this, like,
the
yeah.
more you do it, the more you can
Oh, yeah.
find and fly the thermals. And but I think for people who are perhaps starting out on that journey, I would say to you, that every development requires that tiny couple of seconds of courage to
Oh, yes.
go out of the familiar zone and do something that you don't know. But
Mhm.
you're doing it in a very safe environment, because
Mhm.
you are held by the information that's available.
Oh, wow. If we could just package that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was tremendously valuable. Oh, I so
I
appreciate
hope
you articulating in that way. That was just phenomenal. Oh, indeed. Okay, so yeah, so this is great. So okay, the article's been read, the commentary from your perspective around it, you have shared that. So now let's talk about the two articles that you had to read, and then we'll start on the process and what you want to start developing and creating moving forward, and maybe support that you're going to need or desire, within this type of context. So the two articles that you read that expanded this for you was the reverse engineering your YouTube business, focus on profitability first as your foundation versus popularity, and then build your residual revenue generating video communications entrepreneurship empire with YouTube, Rumble, and more. So I want to say something about this particular one real quick. Now, do you see how expansive this gets into another trajectory? This particular article was about not just building your revenue with YouTube, it's about video communications entrepreneurship, and then leveraging YouTube, of course, and then other aspects and components. And that's the thing about shifting trajectories, is you start somewhere, but then it expands to be so much more. Like, wait a minute, I'm a video communicationspreneur now. I got an empire going. What's going on here? You know? So, so I just wanted to bring that out. So Gina, yeah. So let's hear about, notes that you've taken, and just where you would like for this part of the session, to go, even for yourself.
So for me, the first article, reverse engineering, that's something that when I've worked strategically with businesses, it's been for me very important that we reverse engineer where people want to get to.
Mm-hmm.
What I found working with you is that reverse engineering becomes the practiced way of doing almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where do you want to get to? Put your big rocks in first. And I think
Yes.
for so many people, that may be a new concept. So you look at your high-end products, your big products, and you start with those. And I think most people start the other end.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time they put their free and their small small value things in, there's no room for the big rocks. And there is that I don't call it an experiment, where they're in the lab and they're asked to put the sand in first, and then the
Yes.
small pebbles, and then the big rocks, and there just is no room.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you put the big rocks in, and then the pebbles, and then the sand, there's room for everything.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
So that for me, definitely big rocks, and what's the impact on others that you want to make through your products and services, and be very intentional about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You talk about having a solid business plan, and I think for me, I think the traditional view of a business plan and what you're talking about as a business plan may have some similarities, but I think they've probably got significant differences
Oh, they
too.
do. Yes.
And I think that would be something worth exploring.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then I think for many people, and I was guilty of this. So for example, I've got 23,000 connections on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And people are impressed by that. And I say to them, yeah, but what does it actually mean in real terms? It means that
Right.
I've got a lot of people who have clicked a button and I'm connected. And although I've talked to many, many people, I've only talked to a fraction of the 23,000. And
Mm-hmm.
of that 23,000, there'll be a very small number of people who are actually either going to be those that support me and that I want to affiliate with, or who are going to buy from me. And I think that's a really interesting principle, that we often think that the numbers mean quality, and that's very different. You want quality connections, not lots of connections. Now, if you can get lots of quality connections, then you really
Yes, that would be great. And lots of, quality currency, currency connections. And within a lot of the articles or different ones, I make distinctions about that and shine the light on that too, is because you want to not, where what I talk about in figures to followers, and focusing on figures versus just the followers, is that you can become popular on YouTube, but not necessarily profitable. And there's the opportunity to do both, of course. And the old model would be focused kind of on building the popularity and then the profitability, in a sense, but that actually does not work for people. And I know someone said, well, yes, it does, because it worked for me, and I've showed tons of people how to do this, that. Again, under an old model. Okay,
Yes.
so it worked at one point in one time, but for the great majority, that is actually not what's taking place. And so when there's actually not a solid business model that is in place, that leads from that place, and the reason why this is important is because you have to remember you're in business. And so when you're in business is about generating, it's about, of course, making a difference. But it also is making a difference, but also being profitable as you make that difference. Now, if you're a charity, a nonprofit organization, then I mean, then you can take a different approach. But even those types of initiatives require revenue.
Yeah.
And you know, and a lot of times they beg you for the money for them to do what they do, not to charge, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting, and I have several nonprofits too, but it's a very interesting dynamics. But in this case, since you brought up in terms of the having a business model or a profits model, because to me, even those are different, even though they work cohesively together, is that, and this again is very signature to an individual in terms of what their profitability model is going to be. So it's not the cookie cutter framework, but of course, we can play around, you know, with some of that too. Something I want to do real quick, if you don't mind, is I've actually pulled up the article, reverse engineering your YouTube business, the focus on profitability first as your foundation versus popularity. So you were mentioning about the part about the big rocks, and so I wanted to go to that part. And I'm going to bring out a few little core elements of this, and then we also can play around with some of this if you desire. So I'm reading the part in here where okay, get here. All right, it says if YouTube is your business, then you will have to set up your channel with a solid business plan and profits model, and not just focus on popularity and thinking that it will lead to profitability. I've shared in other articles how under the old model, most become successful in that way. However, it has never worked for the majority, and it's certainly not working in this new emerging era of YouTube business. I'm sure most are familiar with the analogy of putting in your big rocks first. The overarching theme of this analogy is about not filling up a jar with sand and pebbles first. Otherwise, you won't have room for the big rocks. When you focus on just popularity first, that's considered sand and pebbles, even though it does take people knowing about your YouTube channel in order for it to be profitable and impactful. However, if you're in business doing YouTube long enough, you will discover that most of your channel subscribers aren't your consistent buyers. You will more than likely make a higher profitability from those who discover your channel for the first time and only revisit when they're ready to buy the next offer. So I do start talking then about the reverse engineering process. And I give 3 pointers, you know, around that. But something I want to bring out is one of those pointers that I talked about: become an income making influencer versus a popularity in hopes of profits possibility influencer. So there's a difference, right, Gina?
There certainly is.
Yes.
I think, you know, it's interesting that we're having this conversation at a time when, you know, many people are worried about money and profitability, and, you know, life. You know, there's all sorts of challenges financially around the world. And I think it's really important that you know, if you're listening to this, that you don't get drawn into that sense of fear and lack, that you actually recognize that it is perfectly easy and reasonable to work towards being profitable, rather than just trying to hold, you know, manage and survive. If that's your way of thinking, then that's going to be your reality. But if you look for the profit and you're giving that divine exchange that you so often talk about, that you're giving real value, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be very profitable.
Right. And it is the way that you start. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, just in terms of the times that we're in, so to speak. But if we notice, it sort of keeps on being those same types of times,
Yeah.
right?
It
Those
goes in
times,
cycles, doesn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, those times are always going to be for somebody somewhere, no matter what era we are in. So you have to decide what trajectory you're going to be on. And if you have some type of concern as it relates to that, then what do you do from your greater profitability to help be a solution catalyst to that type of scenario? So that is where YouTube comes in, and you can help others benefit tremendously as you are benefiting too. You don't have to take a loss on your end in order to support someone on their end. Otherwise, there's a mismatch. That's not what you're here for. But there are ways to do this, and Gina and I can definitely speak a little bit more about this, because I'm sure she's going to be leveraging this, well, she is leveraging this even for the higher value advantage for her and her audience. That's why she's creating a publication and to accompany the free videos that she is going to be putting out there, which that's already adding tremendous value to people. And then having the book is a way that people are able to make a small investment, in a sense, and get what they need. But her as a business, in a sense, does not have to rely on that level of consumer who just needs that base level product or so. That's not where she has to put her focus in terms of building out her empire, but she can leverage that. But she has so many different levels and layers of how this can benefit so many people on so many different levels. So we don't ever want to get in the mindset in terms of, well, times are hard and nobody can afford this and that. But here's the deal. There's no way that you can participate in life without participating in the marketplace. You have to buy from somewhere, and people need to buy from you. You need to be one of those ones who are in the marketplace, where people can have their needs met at different levels. That's again where YouTube is so beneficial to be able to provide that. Okay, so Gina, thank you for bringing that up, because I know that that is a core focus, and something actually I want to read real quick. It says, to go on from that article, it says, of course, popularity to the right audience is equally important as the profit side. However, if you don't have a solid income plan, then your impact plan can still be achievable, not profitable. All of your time will be spent in content creation, production, and posting videos and hope that someone will see them. Sure, you might gain a following and consistently be empowering others, but more than likely you won't be making the profits. So here we are. If you're showing up on YouTube and you're just here to just be impactful, I'm talking about, this is for people who are in business. So they understand this in a different context, a different light, is that if you're putting all this time in, don't you want it to be profitable and be profitable at the highest level?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is no
Right. So if I'm
yeah.
worried and concerned about, making money, that's a conditioning, that's a seeding that's planted as a virus within entrepreneurs that get them conflicted, which ultimately plays a part in what they actually can, if you want to call it, attract and gravitate based on their vibration. Because of that conditioning that then keeps more problems, keeps you working these out. And it's like, that's not what you're here for. You are here to add tremendous value, but you do not have to take a loss
No.
in doing that and then be resentful later because you've put out value and you didn't get divine right value exchange. So that's what this, even getting that done, that's part of, even I would say, Gina, your get things done, getting YouTube done, is that I'm getting this part done in terms of what is the right divine value exchange as I'm putting this out here to catapult my success on a whole nother way. Would that be accurate?
It would be absolutely spot on, yes.
Okay, great. All right, so I've talked enough here for the moment. So let's get into now anything else from your notes that you want to share, and where you want to go with this next sort of 30-day initiative, and then again, how we can start to solidify some of that too.
I think what I've realized is that what I've given myself to do is much bigger than we had spoken about. So
Yes.
I think there are elements of what I planned which fit very nicely into the weekend, the week. That it's almost taken on a life of its own, really.
Yes.
And what I recognize in doing this, as I then started to think, well, I've got my plan, but as I've been writing, so the ideas in terms of, well, that would be a really great short, 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, that needs a longer video. And so I think that this is a stable of videos that will grow and I can keep adding to. So I think in some ways that has within it, it's got the weekend workshop, but it's also got the 30-day. It's become a hybrid, really.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
I think looking at the using the playlists, I think there's a lot of different things that I can do with that. And one of the things that, as I said to you at the beginning of this session, my plan is that I will do a training around each of the themes, which is going to be at the head of the playlist. But I think together, boxed, it could become a compendium that would be a really good training set, or sets. I think there's more than one there. That then that people can actually buy as a unit, and there'll be several of my publications that would work alongside the different playlists. So there'll be a health and well-being one, there'll be a very specific leadership one, a spirituality one, and so on. So I think that's how I'm going to expand them, so they become products in their own right, as well as the cohesive glue that sticks the other ones together.
It's amazing in which over the years, you've definitely embraced this more from what you've learned from me in terms of the multidimensionalism of development of products and different things. Products, different aspects, they can stand as an empire within themselves, a standalone, but then cohesively they can work together as this larger unit that can definitely expand the value for others on these multiple levels. And so what I love about these types of processes, and what really gives it the wow factor, if you will, but the evolution. And as you've heard me talk and even read in some of the articles, it's not enough just to really have a wow factor during these times. You really have to have the evolved perspective of that coming forth. And so when you can take a concept and take it through the new creation process, and you've been through this a couple of times, where we take it through its metamorphosis. It's being metamorphosized, evolutionized, so that it can ultimately be optimized for success. And so being able to look at these different phases and say, okay, I'm in metamorphosis here, but what is the evolution of this metamorphosis? What is another dimension of this that maybe is trying to come out and expand itself? That's what happened to you within that short window of time. Is okay, here we have a tentative plan here, and that's what's building. But now I'm seeing the evolutionary, the expansiveness of this. It's like, okay, let me now have this publication, and then that just turns into so much more too. And that's where the optimization can come in of that evolution. This affects the profitability tremendously, because when we have things just in a certain state, I often tell people, you're mistaking the seed for the actual tree. You're mistaking the acorn for the oak tree. You have to start cracking open the acorn in order to get the oak tree. That's why it's important, people, to get into motion, to get into processes, to start creating a momentum, because what you're starting out with typically is just it's just a concept. I say it's the seed. It seems like it's the big thing, but what you're feeling is the encoding. And when you can get into the encoding, you're going to then crack open what is meant to be, the evolution of it. YouTube is the same way, and I do this in the YouTube and era metamorphosis process, where taking these small concepts and bringing them into their evolution. So this is what actually, even with Gina, like I said, has been going on just in this short period of time. But I believe even within this session here, that we'll even feel more of that expanded context. At least I can feel it now, of the birthing of something even much more than what she's put down, which then is going to allow the profits model to be even more expansive, but where we can find she can start profiting now, even from leveraging leveraging the playlist. So Gina, if you don't mind, would you like to play in this area for a moment?
Yeah, I'm very happy to play. Thank you.
Okay, all right, because I'm kind of feeling the energy there. So we're talking about, taking a playlist and maybe a few publications or so. And as you mentioned, that a product, overall cohesive product, can be birthed out of this particular initiative.
Yes. So the original plan, goes back prior to the workshop.
Yes, the workspace session. Yes.
Was that I have 80 TV and radio interviews from W4CY. I'm already up to 80 with Gina Gardiner and friends. And I'm very aware that what I'm doing is giving other people a platform. And although it's an organic conversation and my own experience and wisdom comes through, I felt that I wanted to make a difference. So I've done a number of things. One is I'm going to have at least one interview a month where I'm interviewed rather than I interview other people, so that I can showcase what I do.
Yes.
So then I've organized them into playlists under different themes. Resilience, for example, is the one that I have created the video for. And so before we started talking this evening, that was the plan, that I would have my own video and doing a training session, and then say, if you want to hear other experts and share their wisdom, then here's the playlist with lots of different interviews. But actually what has cemented during this conversation is to take that a step further.
Yes.
And to utilize, though I can then group themes together to create a playlist of my training without the other radio shows, just
right.
That then becomes a product. And because I would already have done the work, it's a question of just putting them together, rather than having to consistently create new stuff. It can just be used in a multiplicity of ways.
Exactly. And so here we are in the expansiveness of where the trajectory that's opening up now, even for this, is that when we look at what is actually being done within this process, what has already been facilitated, that is actually asking for more. So we can look at it as, okay, so we take these trainings, and maybe people listen to this and it's a prerequisite to a higher end workshop or a VIP experience or a mastermind. But also there could be the potential is that people who are interested in doing radio hosting and building, doing their podcast a certain way, having these different levels, it's the opportunity also to create an experience for people who want to do what you do.
Oh, yes.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
who would like to do that. And even if it is a one-off something, and you've heard me talk over the years about sometimes you have to create the experience too that's the one-off that consistently pays off. Sometimes people don't want to take on doing other things because they think, oh, then they think they have to build out a certain way around this particular thing, and then it becomes another niche focus for them if they're not really interested in that. And it's like, no, 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 no. What you can do is, even if it's an event that you do one time and then you do create a product around it, or you had a mastermind group or so around, teaching people, or you open up a program yearly, or every so many years, for people who want to learn under you in terms of being a leaderpreneur authority, you leveraging podcasting. And then you're already providing the demonstration where then
Yeah.
they can produce their own products, and they can learn from you to do what you're doing and to allow their expertise to show and shine and not get overclouded by being the host, which is the model that I teach
Yeah.
within my radio revenue programs and everything, is that, which you and I had that conversation, is sometimes you can be a podcaster, and then what happens is people start seeing you just in the host form, even
Yeah.
though you have your expertise, and they're more paying attention to others. But when you can have these different segments of you doing things yourself and grounding yourself as the authority, how expansive it is. Now, how this relates to YouTube is tremendous within itself too, because as we've talked, those who have just traditional radio shows or online that aren't in the television format and just in the audio format, how you can use that in YouTube. And that's something we talked about too, in terms of the playlist and different things. And so when you build out the profitability through the playlist, then you can come and do these videos that then lead and segue to these other dimensions. And that's the different thing, is that now, Gina, prior to what we were discussing in another Genesis phase, in the sense, do you already see how, wow, expansive this is?
Yeah.
Huh. Now I can actually create a platform that is my own school of this type of, thing, or just a program or so that I can create, that maybe I don't do this all the time, but every so often I open this up. So that's kind of the evolution of things taking place. And people want to be educated on so many different levels.
Yeah.
And so being able to have the education in this way, yeah, that puts forth a whole nother training hub for you, that can either be, very product based oriented, um, or a combination, so that's the thing. And the good news about this, I want to say to those listening, is all of what comes in the evolution to be optimized can be created in a very concentrated format, where it's not you having to put so much time into it. Because Gina and I could come back in one session, and I'm telling you, we could have that whole program done and up, because it can be a VIP day away from that, where it's a VIP day just specifically, and she can do her own customized process. She can say, well, I'm creating me a YouTube Get It Done initiative, and here's what I'm going to use YouTube for as it relates to this other thing that I'm creating. Because YouTube Get It Done, you'll find that you're not only getting YouTube done, you're getting a whole lot of other things done too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Gina. So let's hear from you, just in terms of now that this expansion has come play, and I'm glad you played around, in that space of that being, a possibility.
I'm always very happy to play around in these expansive spaces, because I have to say, if you're watching or listening to this, in the early days, I used to come away from sessions and my brain was blown. That happens a lot less frequently, but ultimately, I think it is about understanding that the only limitation is you.
Right.
You've got to get out of your own way and be prepared to be a bit uncomfortable and to be prepared to think. And often you start off by thinking, what am I going to do? I'm not quite sure. But ultimately, if you keep your nerve and you allow yourself to listen to what your inner voice is saying, then it comes clear. But a lot of people start to feel uncomfortable, think, oh, there's too much to do and I can't think of this, and they leave it rather than just allowing that discomfort. And yeah, no, there's some great stuff here, and I know that as I work with this, what this will do is trigger more.
Right.
It always does.
Right. And the more, something I'm so glad you brought up in terms of sometimes there could be what seems to be a lot that's happening, and then people just get paralyzed and they don't do anything. But we don't have to be overwhelmed by the ocean of opportunities that we're in, because you can only, if you're a surfer, you can only ride one wave at a time, right? So you just find whatever wave you're on that you're riding, and you ride that into the next level of momentum, which will carry you from wave to wave to wave, right? And that's how we're one with things. We have to see ourselves as being one, with YouTube, and not seeing social media and all these things as an overwhelming ocean to get swallowed up in.
And I think
Yes,
it's worth saying, I think social media particularly has the capacity to have a momentum that's got nothing to do with your business and profitability.
right,
You just can get caught up in the doing of it. And
right,
I know from personal experience, you really got to question whether it's the right thing for you at that time.
right.
And either that, what I have done since working with you is I don't try and do it all at once.
No,
So at the moment, I'm having a bit of a LinkedIn holiday.
yes, perfect.
And I've actually slowed down the stuff that I'm doing in Facebook,
Yes,
because my focus is YouTube. I
yes,
will do that. And then there may become a time when the focus goes back onto LinkedIn or to Facebook. But I think if you try and do it all the time, you will be overwhelmed and you'll do nothing well.
yeah, you're right. And the thing about it is there's ways that all of it can be functioning cohesively at one time. And you know this through your experience with me, is that you have to, as I say, become, BEE, a B, cross-pollinate, become the media versus being overwhelmed in it. So like I'm on various platforms with presence, but very much in syndication. So I'm very much syndicated over a lot of places. And that's done, believe it or not, in intensive formats, where there's a time where it was to schedule all of those things so that I could be away from it for 3 to 6 months from that level of engagement or so. And you can focus more on the higher profitabilities. YouTube is the same way. So something I'm going to bring up, Gina, um, Gina and I have done a training about the YouTube underground marketing, underground railroad marketing advantage. And so Gina knows about being able to create these different strands, different tracks that you can leverage YouTube to send people to these different places. So you can be sending them to different aspects of your social media, um, and still have that in a more refined way, where you're not having to be you have your time dominated by it. You want to dominate the space a certain way, but there's ways to do it all in a sense. But as I teach, and you know this, Gina, it's all about a way of beingness, and we do have to change our minds. That's reposition our minds in the way we think. That's why these Get YouTube Done Now and everything about my initiatives is about you being able to customize your own way and discover what's going to be right for you. Because even with YouTube, it's not just all about YouTube, so to speak. YouTube can work in companionship and complementary partnership with all the other social media platforms or wherever you want to send them to. But you do want to kind of put your core focus. That's why I'm so glad that that's what she's doing, is when something's not working for you, or it's not working for you effectively the way that it needs to for the next level, sometimes you have to give what I call a profitable pause, and then reposition for revenue, for impact and income. And so with this particular session here of Gina creating more of the expansiveness, and it may seem like I'm doing a lot of the talking here, but it's more of the refining and the fine tuning, because of being able to bring the evolution out so that her path is even more illuminate to where she plans to go, with that. So it's always a combination of training, conversation, and the coaching aspect, but we co-facilitate, we co-facilitate everything pretty much together.
It works very well.
Yeah, it does. So we have this plan here to flesh that out in terms of going from what was your weekend now to, again, the 30 days, with having kind of a series of week intensives, just kind of playing this out over a 30-day experience. And at the same time, she's so open to knowing that this could shift and change and expand, and she doesn't have to get overwhelmed with it. It's that's I'll find what I'm supposed to be doing in the moment as I'm working on this, working towards this. Okay, so Gina, because I know we'll be wrapping up soon, is there another core aspect that you want to focus on? Because we talked about the profitability side in terms of the profits model, which I told you continues to be, kind of more expansive, but we can look at it in increments in terms of, so I'm going to bring this up real quick. Something I do, most people don't, but it's something I do, and Gina can adopt it if she chooses to, and you all can too. I create profits models almost like for everything. So that's why mine's more expansive, is because instead of looking at this is my profits model for my overall business, I look at the whole profits models as here's the profits model for this product, or for this initiative, or for this group, this batch, this bundle of experiences. And that builds up the profitability model of what I'm actually working with in a multidimensional profits model, which is a work of mine in terms of profitability, the profits prism, a multidimensional profits prism. And so Gina, for you, do you want to explore, which we can do that outside of this session too, explore the multidimensional profits model for the playlist? Or would you like to where would you like to go? I'm just feeling the energy, but kind of throwing that out there. But to maximize this session here, because we'll be doing things apart from this session, of course, for the benefit of the listeners too, what would you like to bring out during this time?
I think it would be useful to for people to see the multi-dimensionality of something. Now, whether that's the playlist, or whether we use the playlist in terms of the TV and radio shows, or whether we use the playlist and book that for long-term health and issues and long COVID. But either way, I'm quite happy with for it to be either one. I'd be interested in your take on which one wants to jump out, but perhaps to look at one or other and look at the multidimensionality of it.
Yeah, okay. So we can do that. What I've actually done was I actually went and grabbed my publication, The Multidimensional Profits Prism. It's an entrepreneur's creation planner for designing multidimensional profits models. And so what I'm going to do is, as I'm kind of being present, here, is kind of go through some of the questions that this publication offers as trigger mechanics. So one thing we do know in terms of your playlist is we know that that's multidimensional. um, and in this publication, there's a section that is around new colors, new dimension, new value, new profits. And it has you to ask your product, service, or profits model, are you single or multidimensional in nature? So we know already that the playlist for sure feels multi-dimensional. Now, the one around the health and wellness too, it's feeling that way, but you can isolate it if you want to. If it is a single,
No, it's
yeah,
multidimensional.
it feels that because it's already the book and the the different things. It feels so expansive. So what we know is that we're working with a well, let me back up here because we know we're working with in terms of what the offering is multidimensional, but is the profits model around it multidimensional? That's where we want to key in on.
I think so. If we go to the health one, I mean, going back to the last session, one of the top niche areas, although we don't stick to niches, it's just
Yes.
one of the strands,
Yeah, one of the
really,
strands. Yes.
is health.
Right. Right.
So it's something that people are interested in, that they research, that they will invest in. And so thinking about the multidimensionality, get my teeth back in. So I think that what's already started to emerge is that there are at least two strands, and one is in terms, I'll call them the patient just because it's easier.
Yes.
But the person who is the one who's going through the illness or disability. And then there's the carer. And that's a carer in the context of partner, parent, child, if you're looking after your parent. And then I think there is another one, but I'm not quite sure what that looks like. I just know that there's a space there. But I think that there are some which are common to both parent and carer, and there are some videos that are very, very specifically to support and give people help and ideas and strategies as the patient, but also very different as the carer.
Yeah, so let me jump in real quick and go back kind of to where I was going with this, is that we've identified that the initiatives, so to speak, are multidimensional, but being present with whether the profits models around those are multidimensional. So let me bring some clarification just also for the listeners when I do take myself through these processes and others. So when asking your product, service, or profits model, are you single or multidimensional in nature? So you can have a multidimensional product or offering and still have a singular focused profits model around that. So I'm going to give an example for myself. I'm actually going to read disclosing here. This is older content here, for me, where one of my entries where I was asking, are you single or multidimensional in nature? And it was around the profits model in a sense. And so this is what I wrote. I'm hearing single, simple structures. My multidimensional factor is found in the way I leverage my brand and categorize my offerings. However, my profits model is a single structure that will reflect my Prism effect, one cohesive design called Big Catch Profits Model, which I have a whole working mastermind around that. So what it was letting me know around the particular initiative is that the profit structure for that was landslide selling, big catch selling, which Gina has witnessed multiple levels of seeing how I set up platforms and things for landslide selling effects or go out for big catches. And so the reason why these distinctions have to be made, because you can see where we get mismatches in what we're doing in terms of trying to do it this way, trying to do it that way, and it's not actually working because some things have some specific design for how they want to function. So just because I have multiple offerings a certain way, it doesn't mean that the profits model around that particular initiative has multi-dimensions. It just could mean that there's facets of the profitability within one particular structure. So an example is, Gina, when we set up platforms like on Tumblr, Blogspot, different ones. So that specific thing has multiple strands, components to it, right? But it's kind of set up in the profits model around that particular initiative is set up where when people see it, it offers this landslide effect. Or let's say that you have a program that you've created, but that program is high end, it's really high end. So you're not interested in continuously going out to deep sea fish to do catches and a hook and bait. That's not what this offer and opportunity is for. It's like, no, when I go out for this, I'm landing a big catch, meaning I am landing the client that can pay what I might try to get in 18 people, I can find in one. So so that's the thing about being able to be intentional. I know some people are like, oh my gosh, what in the world? Like this is too much. But believe it or not, this is what separates your impact and income agenda is when you actually aren't in alignment and in tune with what your offerings or opportunities or even your freebies, what they're the way they want to express themselves. So this moves on to the next question here. It says, how many different levels desire to be expressed at this time? So again, I'm going to share from an example of mine, and then Gina, you can jump in with what's coming up for you. So during that particular time, because this has been a minute ago, it feels ancient almost. But I was drawn to go to this particular entry in here. So at this time in far services, it was my productionpreneurship, marketingpreneurship, communicationspreneurship, content creatorpreneurship. And so then how that played out, the productionpreneurship was in the profitable aspect of my podcastingpreneurship. The marketing preneurship was in the media tour format in doing many media tours virtually. The communications preneurship was in the product preneurship in terms of speaking products and different things like that. And so the content creation preneurship aspect wanted to play out in publications and courses. And so do you see those are multifacets of my profits prism, but is giving me specifics on where are the multi-dimensions wanting to come out and what is the profits model around this particular initiative. So for all of this, it was like, no, it's all big catch. It's all landslide. So the distinction is that I can put publications out there and products out there in a singular way for sure, right? But the profits model is saying, but we're going deep sea fishing. We are putting down big nets. We're not going out here with a fish hook in a line, just drawing it in, a certain way. And I will put a plug in for one of my publications at this time that is around the big catch profits model. And I'll put a link to that in the description since it kind of come up here, because it gives you the distinction between being a traditional fisherman and an actual, being a fishing company, a corporation, the difference of how they go out, to make catches or so. So Gina, let's quickly, before we close out, let's play with this. There are of course other questions and things within this publication, but that keep expanding the process. But let's be here with, at this point, how many different levels desire to be expressed, and then that can clarify a little bit more for you. I kind of know the answer, but I'm not gonna say it in terms of whether the profits model for this is multidimensional or just the opportunities within it. So you may be getting a sense of what you feel that is, but we can expound upon that. So how many different levels of desire to be expressed at this time, whether it's your playlist initiative or your COVID initiative, which honestly, all of those are going to be playlist initiatives. So we can kind of group and batch that if you don't mind.
I think if you look at the high end stuff first, that's providing mentorship over a period of time. It could be 90 days, it could be longer, but that would be at the highest level. That would be one-on-one, regular input when people needed it, and the people who are actually ready to take things forward and want to accelerate their understanding, their growth, and so on. So, and then inevitably there would be masterminds, workshops, then they go back to books and videos. But I also think a big thing for me, particularly around the radio playlist rather than the health one, is speaking.
Yes.
And
okay, so communications entrepreneurship aspect.
So that for me would be very much around paid speaking. I think the
okay, that, you know what, that's tremendous. So let's be there for a moment, because then that goes over actually to the video communications entrepreneurship and build your revenue, where I actually talk about the communications aspect, and actually I'm trying to get to that part where I talk about your main focus should be on being a communicationspreneur. And when we're talking about the live speaking or virtual speaking, just the speaking aspect, and I do want to point this out, is that the communications aspect, from what I mean from it, is in 3 dimensions. It actually expands more than that, but the 3 dimensions of the speaking, writing, and the way of beingness, in terms of being commissioned to communicate in this way. But the speaking typically needs to be that the overall leader, in a sense. The writing is more of the segue into that. But Gina, at this point, because she's written so much, and of course wouldn't have it any other way, it's time for her voice to be out there from that level of the communications aspect. This is where the video video communications entrepreneurship aspect comes in. So let me see if I can get to that part in the article. So the article I'm referencing, again, it will be featured in the description. Build your residual revenue generating video communications entrepreneurship empire with YouTube, Rumble, and more. Gina, before we actually go here, was there anything specific about that particular article? You can pull it up if you desire. Was there anything specific about this one that stood out to you? Because I'm feeling that there's a trigger. There's something that you get.
The second article.
The second one, yes. The
well, the thing that I've underlined 3 times.
Oh wow, okay.
Was around video marketing communicationpreneur.
Yes, okay. Oh, it's so interesting, because that was actually the part where in the article I landed first. And then I something said, well, pause and ask her. So I'm actually right here on it, but I feel I need to back up a little bit to segue into that part. So oh, and this is funny because we talked about this before. So, okay, so this is the part I'm going to read. So nowadays, it's not enough just to have a traditional video presence or agenda on platforms like YouTube, Vimeo, and with a niche focus. I would even go as far to say that it's not enough just to have the wow factor happening, which we talked about earlier, the wow factor happening in your brand or business. In this new era, you must bring forth the evolution of the wow factor as both as a brand and empire expression. This is what I teach in another one of my signature works called a YouTube metamorphosis, where I take others through a process of metamorphosizing, evolutionizing, and optimizing their success, not only as a soaring butterfly brand and empire, but also one that goes on to soar like an eagle, a nomispreneur, and then ultimately becomes an illuminate, profitable phoenixpreneur that soars in a millionaire, multimillionaire, or even billionaire and beyond format. Ultimately, you want to set yourself up both for impact and income. So it's best to go through a metamorphosis from the start to spend your time from the start than to spend your time inching along like a caterpillar and getting to results. Again, having the right foundational focus is vital for one's short, mid, and long-term success. So if you want to be an effective residual revenue generating video empire, you must focus on being a communicationspreneur, or better yet, a video marketing communicationspreneur on every level, meaning your speaking, writing, and way of beingness must all work together in order for your video empire to bring forth the evolution of the wow factor. I won't get into the other aspects. So this here, the reason why this is so important is because now we can combine cohesively your video presence, your communications aspect, and the marketing communications aspect all into one. And that's the embodiment that you actually need to take on, because that would not be familiar to you. So that's a stretch for you. But now being able to group, as I say, the speaking, writing, and way of beingness. So the part that's wanting to come out more so in the communicationpreneur format is going to be more in your way of beingness than it is even in the speaking and writing, which means the beingness is the empire itself has to be in that demonstration format of being this communicationspreneur expression. So with that being said, of course, you're going to have to do, the speaking and writing on a different level, but we're bringing together all of those components. So what this is sensing and feeling more like is a metamorphosis, which we don't have time to go through that aspect of it, is, and you've heard me teach on this, the communications metamorphosis aspect, the speak to the right for caterpillars, speak to butterflies.
Yeah.
You are here to be more in that higher level communications format. So whatever else is going on that you may sense you're going to write about, there's a higher level that wants a speaking product, that wants the communications format. That's going to be something that ultimately does the segueing into something more expansive. So you need to think, speak first, write next. Okay.
Okay.
In that context, not taking away from what you're doing in terms of what you
I understand.
Okay, good. Yeah. So the higher aspect is saying, yes, bring forth this grander context, because then you can leverage that as a module of a bigger talk and then get booked to speak from that. How you use YouTube to, if you want to call it, beef that up, is you deliver a talk or so within a format on YouTube, and then it can invite people into the segue of the different offerings and opportunities. But ultimately, the big catch goal is to land a speaking engagement based on, or workshop, however, a speaking engagements based on this particular initiative, and just let them know this is just a component of it. So there's something there, and we'll work on that obviously in a session apart from here. Something I want to say before we wrap up, and I kind of turn it over to you in terms of anything else you want to flesh out, is these workspace sessions are really designed to set up next level master plans. So it's a lot of brainstorming, a lot of going through different things like that's reading and fleshing things out and so that when we get in our actual sessions that we do apart from here, then we do have more of the central focus in a more streamlined way to start expounding upon, specific areas. We do this for your ultimate benefit and value because people are at different levels, so that people can take away different aspects and elements on those levels for what can help benefit them tremendously. But Gina and I, of course, are here to work with you and support you in different ways if you're ready to play in that space. So the video marketing communications is that, yes, you are doing what one of my works talks about, is speaking and marketing working together like a hand in glove. Every time you speak, you're marketing, even when it's just in a general context. So you're now just using this in the video marketing communicationspreneur way. It's your marketing communications just being leveraged in video, but it is for business. It's not just talking for talking's sake. This is intentional here. And you may find that you set up a whole playlist that is just mini talks of you leading people into a bigger talk, and or inviting them to check out the speaking product version of it. And then if they're interested in a workshop being conducted or facilitated, private webinars or however, what's in your speaking tier, then they can virtually book you for that, and then let that segue into it is more of the live types of initiatives. Does that make sense, Gina?
It certainly does.
Okay.
Yeah,
That flesh some things out.
Yeah. Lots to think about, as always. And I would say to people who've been listening to this, take some time, listen to the recording more than once. I've taken copious notes, as I always do,
Yes,
because one of the things I find as I go through, where I've got actions that in my head, right, I'm going to do that, then I circle it or I tick it, and I can go back and maybe just listen to that little bit of the recording 2 or 3 times. And so not only are you in your business thinking things in a multidimensional way, it's about knowing how best you take on board new ideas and how you expand your thinking, and then using that the session to act as the really the first of all the impetus to get going, and then the fuel to help you motor along a great acceleration.
I love how you said that. And what it speaks to is the momentum that builds, because a lot of times when we have disruptions, and a lot of times, of course, what I do even in communications is intentionally in a lot of ways comes out, it's meant to be disruptive, to make your brain explode so that it expands beyond where it cannot constrict back to where it was. And then that the settlement of the content or so land correctly in you to know what you need to execute on first. The way that Gina is able to build massive momentum and in 4 days even shifted into this trajectory is because she took the action and started moving the energy, like she mentioned. So when you start taking the action and moving the energy a certain way, though you set things up that you feel you're going to execute on this plan, but the plan could unfold differently. It could expand, and it just puts you in another trajectory. And you're like, wow, this is actually going to play out better than I was preparing for, Yeah. All right. So Gina, get ready to conclude here. So what is your biggest sort of takeaway, or your overall energy or perception from this session, of course, versus the last one, because things have changed, but so just share what profoundness this was for you, what you really feel like you're going to go execute, and then what you would like to share with others before we close out.
I think the last session gave you the nuts and bolts. This session So the last session gave you the, it's a bit like a Meccano set. I'm old enough to remember Meccano. And you know, in my Meccano kit, there would have been, right, you can make a plane.
Yeah.
So I had all of the stuff there to make a plane.
Yes.
What I've now got is I've got all sorts of extra bits, and I've got free reign. And so having got the fundamentals, now it's time to be creative and allow things to evolve, but not just sitting there waiting for it, starting to go along a trajectory, but recognize that if I'm open to it, that trajectory can expand and morph, and I need to go with it.
Yes. Perfect. Because it definitely expands and it definitely morphs. And that's part of the metamorphosis, is you're always morphing into something even before you come into a fuller form. And which, to kind of finalize this, one of the questions, and you don't have to answer this, but the next question that's in the Prophet's Prism is around, when we ask our creation or so, is, are you in your final form for this phase, right? And then the following question now after that is, how can I make these offerings more valuable? So meaning, if things have come into their final phase for that form, then the next expansion is, as you're putting it out there, is, you know, how can you continue to increase the value around that? And a lot of times that is going to come in your marketing communications. It's going to come in how valuable you can craft your copy so that it adds more value, you know, to others, and of course add the value to you, where it is the divine right value exchange. But often what will happen is there will be something, one or two aspects of what you're putting out there, that will then become more illuminated and say, I'm the one that wants to be made more valuable right now. I'm the shining diamond. And then that's where you focus your energy on, instead of maybe all the other components. You focus in on those particular ones that are saying, in our final formness, this is how you expand the value in the marketplace for this particular aspect. So I just wanted to share that, so Gina, that can benefit you also tremendously. That, because some people will start thinking, well, does it ever stop? Is it always going to keep being multidimensional? Or, you know, what does it come into what will be a final form? Notice I said the final form for that phase. So so that you then can start leveraging something, so you're not necessarily always just creating something and not putting the value out there and getting the benefits and results, the ROI, return on investment for your time and what you've created. Is that you are putting things out there, but you don't have to wait until it is in a final form. You start moving things, but then you can ask, okay, are we at some solidification now where I need to focus more on leveraging this aspect? And then after that, I can come back and say, okay, now how do we expand the value around this? And if nothing jumps out, then it will clearly communicate, no, I'm good for now. Just keep doing what you're doing. But if not, something will say, me, I'm the one. Leverage me at this time. And now create something on a platform if it isn't already there. And then now create a video of some context, whether it's a YouTube short, whether it's a speaking video on a certain way. So it will let you know. And that is how you create the wow factor on the evolutionary side for what you do. Okay, Gina, listen, thank you so much, you know, for this. And look forward to, of course, our sessions outside of here and other trainings that we'll be facilitating together. And then also coming back so people can be, they can continue with your journey. So on that note, please share your, the YouTube channel you would like for people to follow you on, and just anything else that you want them to connect to. We'll have the information in the description, of course, but you can vocally state that now.
Just to say that Please subscribe to Genuinely You with Gina Gardiner. You can see it behind me, Genuinely You with Gina Gardiner on YouTube. I'd love to hear from you and hear what you think of the videos, and also tune into my radio show, which is AM FM 24/7, Gina Gardiner and Friends. You can listen to it on the syndicated radio station. And if you can't get it on that, it's on lots of the podcasts, and it's on several free apps, and we can perhaps put that in the description as well. And I'd love to know your story, so please do connect.
Awesome. Thank you, Gina. And thank you again for allowing your workspace master planning session to be here for other people to benefit. And of course, I'm so proud of you for sure. So this is going to wrap up this particular on-air workspace session. And I'm grateful that you have joined in for this, and hoping that you will gain tremendous value from this. The articles, as mentioned, will be in the description, and Gina's information and everything. Just want to send you away with the encouragement that today we're talking about get YouTube done now. When you get YouTube done, you're getting you done. Meaning it's going to open up different avenues for you in your own life to see where you can move the momentum forward in areas that are far beyond just you and YouTube. But with you having that awareness, you can actually create something around what's going on with you and bring it back to YouTube to add value if you feel guided to do so. So sending you away with many blessings and well wishes, and we look forward to you joining us again, and we'll be back soon.